Hello and good evening, everybody. Welcome to Kiki's Chat Show. We have one person today watching us just now. So, today's topic is domestic violence, which way forward? We're always talking about domestic violence. Everybody knows what domestic violence is. I'm going to explain to you in a nutshell, abridged summary of what domestic violence is, and then I shall introduce my guest. Domestic violence really is in different forms. There's the violence of hitting, attacking, beating, biting, scratching, general violence. There is the domestic abuse, which is also violence really, when you keep money away, so it's financial, when your home is uncomfortable, where the woman is feeling besieged every time the man is there. Now, nobody should ask me why I'm talking about women. I've told you time and time again, 98% of women are attacked. 2%, and it's even negligible, that 2%, that is something is happening to them in their homes, which is men. So today we're talking about women. This show is for women, by women, to women, with women. And that's what we talk about. Now, I want men to watch this show because I want them to learn from it, to see how we think, to see maybe there's something that you're doing wrong. Maybe there's something going on that you could change. The whole idea of marriage is two people coming together, two people from a different life, a different sometimes social setting, a different upbringing, coming together. You saw her, she looked beautiful, she was nice, blah, blah, blah. Amongst all the women out there, this is the one you chose. Therefore, if you marry this woman, the plan is for you to forge together, to do things together, to respect each other, to have beautiful children if that's what you want, but generally to create a happy home. That's what marriage is about. So, from that premise is what we're talking about. The question today is, which way forward? How do we let people learn to realize that your home is your last bastion? Your home is where your heart should be. Your home is where you're happy. If you're both going out to work and do things, your home is where you come to, you relax, you sleep, you eat, and you do nice things. My guest today is Shirly Osborne. Shirly Osborne is a social entrepreneur and a women's leadership advocate who focuses much of her work on issues of safety and security for women and girls. In 2006, Shirly founded the Girls Education Project in Phoenix, Arizona, with the mission statement saying, "Strong, passionate girls becoming powerful, compassionate women." In 2015, she opened a GEP chapter in Montserrat, and in 2016, the Montserrat Women's Resource Center to provide services for women and girls, but especially for those experiencing gender-based violence in their homes and relationships. Shirley was a founding member of the Arizona Girls Roundtable and has been a facilitator with the World Academy for the Future of Women at SIAS University in Zhengzhou, China. Shirley has been published and has written for publications which include the Montserrat Reporter, the Jamaica Gleaner, the New York Daily News, HuffPost, that's Huffington Post, isn't it?
Yes.
And the Parliamentarian. She's the author of The State of Arizona's Girls. Take note, make change. Tolerance is no virtue. Ignorance, appreciation, and the human story, which critics have compared to the seminal Hannah Arendt book, Origins of Totalitarianism. And most recently, 2 books on leadership for women, When Women Lead and Good Lead. Shirley is a Simmons University MBA. Now, from all that I've read, summary is Shirley is a woman's woman and a good egg, and she's a protector of women. Welcome to the show. I am very honored to have you on Kiki's Chat Show.
Thank you very much, Kiki. I'm honored to be here. Thank you for having asked me.
Thank you. Now I'm going to have a big head and forget all the questions I'm asking you. Because you see, you're my hero, my shero. And now, okay, so let's talk. Regarding, I mean, some people call it safeguarding, but regarding the safety of women and girls, how do you see, and this is an interesting question, how do you see women's safety now from in our mother's times, a generation or 2 before? How is it now? Because you would think that it should be better. Women should have become stronger. I don't know. How do you see it?
Everything you said there has happened. It is different. It hasn't got any better necessarily. It is different than it was in our mother's days, only because, or mostly because nowadays women speak up. Women are stronger. Women are more outspoken. We have more access to resources and to information and so on. Women speak up some more, but paradoxically, that's one of the problems. That's one of the reasons why we see so much more violence, or we think there's so much more happening. And a perfect example is very often when a woman wants to leave an abusive relationship, for example, we who work with women in those situations, we warn her. You give people, support and advice. You make the decision. But so often we have to advise them that once you've made the decision to leave, your safety, your life actually very often goes on the line, because when things are just moving along, just, rolling along and people are doing what they want to do and so on, it just maintains. But once a woman steps up and says, enough, then there's a pushback. And that's what's happening generally with decision with women and violence. As men are being forced to recognize and take responsibility and acknowledge, and they feel that they are losing power and authority and losing control of their home and the woman, the pushback gets stronger. And so sometimes it very often, unfortunately, results in an escalation of violence. And that's happening not just in the home, but society-wide. And America is a perfect example. I've spent a number of years here working with women like this, women and girls, and it is so obvious. One of the things about, and we can all acknowledge this about the women's movement and the United States, is that it's a lot more in your face and outspoken and bold and strong in America than in many other places. But women are no less safer. Quite the contrary. Studies have also shown that the violence against women in the United States, the kind of violence that women have perpetrated onto them by men, is in many ways, there was a number of different areas they selected, they investigated. It's America is of the quote unquote industrialized countries. The violence that women experience here is worse than in other quote unquote industrialized countries. And again, that's the reason. As women are stepping up and standing up and saying stop, men are pushing back with more violence, unfortunately.
You know, one of the things that concerns me is there came a time when African men especially, who lived in America, Britain, Europe, etc., wouldn't go out with women, or wouldn't marry. They wouldn't marry women who had assimilated, even if they were African. If they were not African, they were not going to marry them anyway. But if they were African and had assimilated into the Western world, they wouldn't marry them either, because they were too feisty. They stepped back, and they didn't respect. They were not humble. So they would then go to Africa and bring a woman from their village, say, because she was good, she was submissive. Submissive, that's the word which the men like to use. She's submissive, she's respectful, and if she's wrong and you hit her, she's not going to call the police. Now, why do we allow this to happen? Why do we allow men even to go to the villages or towns or wherever they come from to bring a girl into the Western world? Why doesn't someone ask them, but can't you find a woman where you are?
The same thing, what you're talking about happens, it still happens, Candy, it still happens. And again, it all goes back to how we have set up our societies. Our human societies are set up with hierarchical roles. The powerful, the less powerful. The stronger, the less strong. And across the board, we have either agreed or been forced to agree that men are the ones who are supposed to be leaders or supposed to be in charge. They're the ones who are top of the food chain, so to speak. And therefore, everybody else must respect and be submissive. And it's in business, it's in politics, it's in our religions, it's in all of those institutions in which our societies are grounded, have put men at the top of the list. I was brought up in the Caribbean. The Caribbean is culturally Christian. That's the best way I can put it. A lot of them don't go to church and all that, but our culture is Christian, and the Christian religion teaches that men are supreme. God is a man. The priest must be a man. Even in churches where women are allowed to, and I say allowed because that's what they're allowed to participate. They're allowed to participate only to a certain level. And even women who have been allowed to be priests, they complain because they still are seen as less. We have built that into all of our systems. Women's brains are not as good. Our muscles are not as good. We are emotional. I was listening to some music the other day, one of those operas. Women change like the wind. This is all part of how we've set our societies up. And that's what it brings. When you have inequality, human beings are such. If you're in a position of power, you could be the nicest person in the world and have all the best intentions. The fact is that you are the more powerful. And there are just certain things that those less powerful are not supposed to do. And across the board, it's women who are less powerful. And so don't talk back to me. And so it's easier for them to go back to find a woman who won't, quote unquote, and men use this term, won't give me any trouble.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's so disappointing because I was thinking for a while, I used to think that okay, in our grandmother's time, a few generations beyond that as well, it was more the man who is educated. I had a friend who, his sister, she was very smart, but his mother, who is a single mother, a businessman, very wealthy, she wouldn't educate her daughters. She was determined to educate her sons. And yet, the sister, after she married her sister off very early. Now, it
Mm-hmm.
was sensational because her husband is one of those rare gems who kind of sensed that this is an intelligent woman. So he put her through school.
Mm-hmm.
And she is an engineer, or, she's an engineer in a very powerful job in America now. I mean, these are Ghanaians from my country. But you see, and it was amazing that when she was going to get an award, we all knew about it, and he would tell the story that his mother never educated her. It was
Mm-hmm.
either the mother wanted her either to join her in her business or get married.
Right. Yeah.
And she
Yes.
chose marriage because she knew that out of the home she would be able to better herself.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the other point is, so because of this, and I said this, I gave this example because I was thinking that in our generation, where women are more educated, they will feel more freer in their marriages. They would not be beholden unto the man, and therefore it would be a better balanced partnership.
Partnership. There's that word. It
Yes.
ought to be a partnership, but it's not seen as a partnership. I mean, Candy, women have from the times of recorded history. You look around the world, in whichever culture you look, you find a lot of women are property. If you think of the marriage, the Western marriage ceremony, wedding ceremony, the father gives the daughter away because the daughter is his property, and he gives her away to this man who is going to be owning her and
Goods
teaching
and
her.
chattel. Goods,
Exactly,
chattel,
exactly.
chattel.
Precisely. So there's no partnership there. And that's, when you ask the question, which way forward, that's what always comes to mind. I tell this to women, girls, men, boys. Think of this. Think of the life that you want. You're a man. You want a home, just like you were saying,
Yeah.
where you are safe, you are comfortable, you are happy.
Mm-hmm.
But you are not safe and comfortable and happy if your wife is unhappy. I mean, in Montserrat, we have a saying, you don't eat from any and anybody because you don't know how they cook the food. You have to cook food with love, right?
Yeah.
And so we ask men, if you're beating her up, if you're abusing her, you think she's cooking that food with love? Don't you want to be experiencing this? Wouldn't you prefer to be able to come home and have an intelligent debate about a topic you're interested in with your wife, with your daughters? Is it enough for you to do this at the rum shop with the boys? When you're planning for the family that you want, the life that you want, if the two of you are working and earning and saving and building, just imagine how much pressure that takes off you.
Yes,
And
the man.
exactly. So make it a practical thing. If you can't get to it emotionally, make it practical. But the idea of seeing women as partners is still so alien, so foreign that it impedes that. So even when women are working and bringing in enough to, you'd think, would give them a say, that in itself creates problems because men still get upset about women earning more money than they. And because we've taught men that you're supposed to be in charge, you're supposed to be the one, the breadwinner, the head of the family, and everybody else must bow to you.
So
And
what is the way forward? I mean, how do we move forward? Which is what the topic is today. What is the way forward? Men do not want women to be at par. They do not want them to be at the same level. A man wants to be, somebody did say that, well, how can you be at the level when the woman is the neck? You're the head. If you want to be the head, be the head. But if you don't have a neck, how are you going to operate? So, but do you women really want to be the neck when you think about it? I mean, whatever it is, what is it? Is it our culture? Is it culture that's holding us back?
Yeah.
Or is it that men do not want to evolve and they don't want to? I know tribes where the women are the hunters. So I don't know what all this is about.
Yeah. It's all of the things you're saying, Candy. It's all of those things. Men, we still have. You just spoke, for example, about this other woman that you knew who she married a man who was thoughtful and one of the rare gems that you say.
Yeah.
There are some, few and far between, but there are some. But the question is, how did those ones get to be like that? Yes. And a lot of
I agree. I'm saying yes. How did he get to be a good man enough to even help to educate? Because some men don't do that. They just can't stand it.
Because some men pick up along the way that what serves them best going through life is sharing, not owning and controlling, but sharing, being a part of something. So it's not his family, it's our family. It's not my house, it's our home. And there's language and there are institutions, and there's nowadays more and more and more, there's media. Because, if you think of the ways in which we gather information and the ways in which we used to be able to navigate and manipulate that information before were much more closed is probably the word that's coming to mind. There were smaller groups. And so the influences that we had and the examples that we saw were much more manageable, for want of a better term. Now, there is a whole lot of information that we all need, but we are not, the younger generation, let me say, for example, they don't have those structures, those teaching structures that help them understand and navigate that information. So when they see all this stuff happening, they see 12-year-old girls being sexualized, they see, these movies with women being treated like dirt. The home environment is not what it used to be. You sit and you chat and you talk about things. You must be able to think of some friends of yours who will say, when we were growing up, dinner time, you'd sit.
Yeah, oh yeah.
Yeah, no, you grab something and you're gone. So the structures that were teaching us how to behave are not as strong as they used to be. And so a lot of the education that they would need to help them become those kinds of people is just not available. Just not available because the structures are no longer there. And we have institutions that more and more are becoming militarized. School is less and less a place of learning and support than a place of drilling. You're taught to do something, learn it, pass your exam, your standardized test. In America and other places, you have what they call school security officers, who are police officers there to keep order, not to help children learn how to become decent human beings, but it's about punishment. And a lot of what we do with men and women is that. And so the men are not being taught.
How to be kind.
Yes. How to be kind and sweet and gentle and thoughtful and emotional. They have emotions. They have the same emotions we do. Why must they be taught not to cry? I mean, I've been to funerals and people tell me, no, don't cry, don't cry. Your mother just died. Yeah, dude, cry. If girls can cry, boys can cry. And it helps. It helps in relationships with other people because it helps build empathy. And if you feel you are superior to somebody, to something, you have less empathy. And so you treat them less well. So one of the ways to get to this is to begin to intentionally teach our children, boys and girls, about empathy, about being thoughtful, being kind. And how to do that in today's world is, in many ways, the same way it was done before. Except now, it has to be intentional. You have to create these things. They don't just happen spontaneously in the town center, or in the Sunday afternoon at home. They don't just happen spontaneously anymore, because people are running all over the place. So people have to be groups, individuals, institutions, governments.
We set up little communities, like we did before,
Mhm.
where we know each other, and you pick up kindness, empathy, all of those positive
Mhm.
behaviors
Mhm.
from around.
Around, yeah.
Because I think people learn those things from grandparents and
Yeah.
aunties
Mhm.
and all of that, but we're not that close to them anymore, and
Yes.
so we're just a bunch of feral human beings now.
But you are so right. Feral is you are perfectly right. You're perfectly right. You'd think that as we advance, we'll become more civilized. But you're perfectly right. In many ways, you're becoming a much more feral than.
Yeah, oh yeah, I think your point is correct. As we advance, we are moving away from all of the little positive teachings that we've had before, and we're becoming selfish, difficult, intransigent. We get angry very
Yeah.
quickly, and some of these things that bring discord into the home is anger.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
this anger is because you're striving and it's not working, things are not going well, especially if you're black and you work in an environment where you're not respected, so you come home and then you bully your wife.
Yeah. Exactly. Yep. You have to take that on somebody, and yeah, she's it. Hmm. Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
I think the way forward with this, which is what the title is, where do we go from here, is we've got to relearn this whole thing. We've got to reteach ourselves. The world is a very wicked place, and invariably, we're learning how wicked the world is.
Yes.
So,
Every day.
for us to be able to live in this world, we really have to change the way that we see things, and we have to really stop and take stock and see what is happening and how can we change it. How can we learn from positivity and you know because somebody is saying here, one of the listeners is saying he thinks the issue is relative and it depends on who you are dealing with.
Mhm.
What do you I find that statement very disturbing,
Yes. Yes.
because no one gave the woman to you. You chose the woman, basically. You both chose yourselves. So
Mhm.
you might, what do you mean by it depends on who you're dealing with?
Yeah.
For you to decide that this person deserves to be maltreated and this other person is not deserving. I don't understand that.
Yeah, I agree with you. I read it and I thought, no, it does not depend. There need to be rules about how we treat one another, how we think of other human beings. And those are principles. They're not things that depend on, you know, if she's 5'4" or 5'8", if she's curvy or if she's not. No, she's a human being that you chose, that together you chose one another to build a family, to start a home, to create new human beings. Yes. And so, therefore, there are certain basic rules, to my mind, that must be adhered to, that must be respected. And just like you said, these are things that we have to relearn. We have to be intentional about teaching. We there has to be a decision somewhere, a series of decisions um, that guide us back to how to behave. There are people who write. We still have homes, and we're not living close to our grandparents anymore. But we have phones. So the and I do get that it's difficult staying connected, but the reality is that it's important. That has not changed. And I hate to say this, but unfortunately, because of how we have all been socialized, the people with the most power, opportunity to change this is women. And I
I
hate
don't
saying
know.
I don't want to pull anything more on women's shoulders, but because society still is what it is in so many instances, women still are made to be and to behave like the first teachers, you know.
I think someone's asking what the data is. It's 98% of women are being battered, bruised, killed, hurt. You know, there is no balance. It's just 2% or so of men who are also claiming to be domestically,
Yes.
maltreated or beaten or whatever. So that is the data. And the same person is asking, what sort of environment are we talking about? And I think it is, you see, this situation of domestic violence and the situation of domestic abuse is across all class, creed, religions. It's everywhere. It is happening. And, I've got an example. The example I have is this lady who is a barrister, a whole barrister, very educated, very sweet, very nice. And her whole life was control. Her home life was like a war zone where the man was continually maltreating her, abusing her, belittling her. And yet she would go out, and she was a very good lawyer. She was, but then, there was this thing where she was always afraid. She was always in a hurry to get home. She couldn't work. Even if her colleagues are working late, she had to go. She couldn't, because if she was late, the man would think she was having an affair, she was doing something. And it took her years to manage to extricate herself from that relationship. And in fact, at one point, the police were involved, and it was terrible. Now, a woman like her who she knew the law, and she could have sorted this thing out herself, couldn't, because it was a marriage. And you don't, so how does one, how do you deal with that? That's the question.
The question, it comes, no matter how you look at it, it comes back over and over and over again to people being clear about what our values are. The fact of the matter is that our society, the way our societies function, well, nowadays you can call it, they're dysfunctional in so many ways, because women are, and there are many women like her, it goes across all boundaries. Very, very rich women, very, very successful women, as well as women who are living in penury, suffer the same things, because the lesson that there is equivalence between us, men and women. We are equal, we are different, and that's acceptable, and that is perfectly fine. We need that, but we are equal, and we each have a right to certain quality of life, certain standard of living. And when a woman becomes an adult, she becomes responsible for her life. Instead, society still teaches us that she needs to submit, she needs to be submissive to a man. And what's happening, and really the only way to get past and get through this, is continuing education, continuing to teach people that women are human beings, men are human beings. There is no such thing as a more valuable human being in this sense. Yes, women bring something to the table, men bring something. They're supposed to be complementary. And teaching people, there's no other word I can use, Candy. It comes back over and over and over again to the kind of information that people have, and the way we organize our institutions and structure our institutions. Because women still are so very much we're considered children in many ways. I mean, there are countries in the world up to now where women never become never become adult. They need to have guardians and so on. And even in places like the United States and Europe and large cities in Africa and in the Caribbean, where people, these are metropolitan places where there's a new way of living, and we've gone through the industrial revolution, the tech revolution, and we've come to realize that everybody has something to offer, and the world needs what we all offer. Families need what women as well as men offer, but we're still stuck at there's one more valuable than the other. There's one that's supposed to be in charge, and it brings you back to that word of partnership. We're supposed to be partners, and if you are partners, you're equal partners. You bring something. And you know what, I remember talking to some friends of mine some time ago. We had a conversation about this actually. Sometimes you'll give 70%, and sometimes you don't be able to give 30%, and you have to balance. But overall, it's 50-50. And the only way to get past this domestic violence is one, we have to revisit what we think homes are and what they're supposed to do for each member of the family. Yes. And of course, the roles within there need to be recognized as being important. Women who work at home are called women who work at home. And, they're not seen as valuable as those who, quote unquote, work outside. But women who work at home, this, cooking, cleaning, taking care of children, going up and down, doing this. Women work 24 hours a day, checking on the child who's hurt or not hurt, or checking they don't get hurt. He's coming home for dinner, all that stuff. It's work. And if that work were not getting done, the family would not function. And so another aspect of it is, what do you want coming out of your family? So you want to create a family that creates children. What kind of children do you want? And if you want children who are well balanced and who are going to be productive and constructive and treat people well, they have to sit in the home. And so we get through this by, among other things, talking to one another about it and allowing people to speak and express and learning to value women. How we do that, there's all kinds of ways. And in to some degree, that might depend on the environment where you begin and how forcefully or how boldly you can work in one direction or the other. Because if we come back to what we were talking about earlier, and keeping women safe. You want women to survive, live through these things and learn and develop. You don't want to lose women along the way. And so there has to be some managing of the strategies that are used. One of the things I think is critical is that women get into the offices of leadership, the places where decisions are made, where policies made, where laws are made that determine how we behave. And I mean this both in secular and in religious societies, religious organizations, because it's when women are in these places that the thinking about women and what's important to women and families gets the attention and the authority that it deserves. And so how to get through domestic violence, how to get past this, there are a number of ways. Some of them we can talk about today. Some we're going to be struggling with for the next, for the foreseeable future. But there has to be the intent, there has to be the will that bubbles up, and from organizations, from groups, from individuals, that keeps the conversation going, that we need to do this. And eventually it'll become, enough that it can make a difference. We've seen it happen with other issues. It can happen with this one also.
I think we should talk about how we can come out of this, because I one day was wondering whether women should live separately from men. Women are being educated, men are being educated. Women, find your own house, get your life. Man, find your house, get your life. If you like this woman, visit her, make her know your intentions, and then this is your woman. But and so that when you do come together, there's an agreement.
Mm-hmm.
But where the woman is in her father's house, and the man is coming to get her from the house to, I think those are some of the little things which create this whole thing of it's my house, get out,
Get out.
etc., etc.
Yeah. I've had a man tell me, Candy, Shirley, I couldn't marry a woman like you because you can buy your own car. If we get in an argument, you just get in your car and drive away. I've actually had a man tell me that. And I'm not the only woman that has happened to. But you're perfectly right. In many instances, and I think there's some studies that have shown actually that when people marry older, the marriages last.
Yes.
Because precisely they reach the point where they know who they are, they have built enough of their lives to be able to stand on their own, and so it's a partnership, not I am owning you and taking care of you. And yeah, that is one way. And unfortunately, men are pushing back against that still, because that erodes the authority of the men. Just like that, if she has her own car and her own house, then what does she need a man for? When we have these conversations, we have meetings, we meet with women, you hear them repeat these things that they have been asked. So because
where do we, how do we deal with this? Because we've reached a point where we've talked and talked and, this JoJo thing where we've talked and talked and talked and talked and talked about this. Last week we talked about it. Mm-hmm. One of the tactics the women said men used where the woman has married the man. It was a love relationship, it's fine. But as time goes on, the man begins to exert his power and everything else. But when he sees the in-laws, he's as sweet as lights, and he's so lovely that whenever she goes to say, oh, this is not working well, or he's treating me badly, or whatever, people just can't reconcile the fact that this same man that we like is doing this to you. And it seems like a lot of women are saying the same thing. So should we just suggest to women that everyone stay in their space and let each of you visit and go back, the island of Lesbos?
Yeah. You're right. That is one way. And I think some people are doing that. It's going to take a lot of different strategies. That is one. Teach girls, and that is happening more and more slowly, but it's happening more and more. Teach girls to become independent. Teach girls and let girls stay in school and get educated and so on. And what's the word? Celebrate girls' successes. This has to start in families.
I say so. That's one positive thing. We should celebrate. We should educate the girl child. Very important that girls are educated. Two, celebrate the girls. Let the girls come out. You see, I have, as with time, as I'm growing older, I can see that men are different from women, and we look for different things from women, and we look for different things from men. Therefore, a man will structure his point. Well, where a woman has lost it and she's screaming her head off, she's upset about something, and you did this to me and blah blah blah. And the man will structure the whole thing. Like there's a man on there now, one of the comments who he's making on what is the data and what is this, but we know the data. I mean, we're talking about ways in which women would learn not to be treated like second-class citizens in their own home.
Yep.
And when you talk about data, also, whilst he's asking about data, it's intangible, really. The whole situation at the moment with what's happening to women in their homes, where they begin to doubt themselves, they do not feel comfortable, they're nervous, they're sad. And there are loads of people that you meet who are like that. And we need to address that in the way that women will understand.
Yes.
And that's what we're doing. So the person asking about data, I'm afraid you're in the wrong place, because we're talking about how to empower women who
Yes.
are in terrible situations to get out of it, or to deal with it in a different way from the way that we're generally dealing with it, that's not helping anyone.
Yeah. Yeah. I see here that he's also saying he should oppose that 99%, 0.5% relationships between men and women is successful and there is no problem. You know,
That's not true, but this is a troublemaker and we shall ignore it.
yeah. And you're perfectly right. You're perfectly right. Because we have, the strategies must include, it must, they have to teach both men and women, boys and girls. And I think when you talk about girls, you always get, and what about the boys? So we come to the boys. It is incumbent upon us to teach girls that they are valuable, that they're competent, that they're capable, that they are perfectly able to manage their own lives, take care of themselves. And should they not ever have a man, they can still be fine.
Yes.
We cannot keep.
Yes, I agree with you.
Yes, you must be able to stand on your own, manage on your own. We talk about home ownership, for example. I mean, men own houses and buy houses. When a woman wants to buy a house, the question always is, but you don't want to get married? Yes, I want to get married, but I want to have my own house too. So when we get married, I have my house, he has his house. We can decide which one we want to live in and so on. But yes, and if I want to buy my own car. So yes, when we meet, we can, we have to teach women to be self-sufficient and be confident about being that, and not to feel any shame or any
embarrassment
about being that. Yes, we have to do that. And we do that, then we set up, the more we do that, we begin to set up this space where men have to say, okay, then I have to look. I can't, just like this one with the car, I can't treat her badly because she will take off and go away. So I have to manage how I be careful how I treat her. And then we have to be careful. We have to look at how we, again, how we see families. How we see families. I think the notion that it is on the woman to maintain the family, regardless of what the man does. He can go out and misbehave and do whatever, but you must make sure that everything is. We have to teach women, no, you can get up and you can stand up and say, no, I will have no more of this. And especially if I have my own car, my own money, my own job, I can move. Now, what stops women from doing this when they are successful and they have money and they have a job and so on, is that notion behind there that there is something wrong with a woman not being attached to a man. We still feel that way in many ways.
Well, it's wrong, and we have to start dealing with that. Yeah, absolutely. We need to make women feel that whatever path you choose is fine. Whatever decision you decide, it's fine to be married. Some marriages are really good, and that's fine. And in fact, there comes a point where if things are going wrong, they can be resolved. If you are friends in the marriage and you begin to understand that this makes me uncomfortable, well, darling, I don't like this, that is fine.
That friends word you just used, yes.
But where you're not friends, and where the man comes in and you get scared, where the children are scouring every time he arrives, when he's in one room, they're running into the other room, the wife is nervous, and sometimes you don't know what you've done, but you've done something. Therefore, you are concerned about it. Or if you are strong and you stand for yourself, then him and his family look at you and say, oh, look at that woman, she's a tigress, she's this, she's that. And it seems like to be able to protect yourself makes you even, a bad person.
Yeah. Again, we have to teach, we have to develop a different view of what a woman is. We have to look at we have to write about it, do art about it, start groups, have conversations, write laws, all of those things. What is a woman? We have to, she's not property. We have to get that. A woman is not property. She's a human being with a brain as good as yours, with muscle.
Even better. There are smart women out
I
there.
was going to say that, yes.
There are smart women out there who've been taught to be quiet. Don't speak. Be quiet.
Yes. Let him win this game. Let him,
Yes.
because you're a girl. No, we need to stop doing that. And and again, you see the little sparks where that is happening, but it needs to be the thing. It needs to be women are, period. Women are, and therefore, people, you have to revisit how you treat them. You, in order to have a woman, you have to behave yourself. You have to show yourself to be this sort of person. You have to elevate, because we talked earlier, I think before the show, we mentioned financial abuse.
Yeah.
That is one of the ways in which women are abused over and over and over again. Because again, Candy, a lot of the women who actually are successful earning their own money, when they come home, it's his money and he gets to manage and tell what she can do with it.
Yeah.
There's a young girl I know who's getting married. She's 22, 23. And I'm her godmother. I told her, look, he has a business, this guy she's getting married to. She's going to work for him. I told her straight, I'm not sure that's a good idea, but she's an adult. She can do whatever she wants. Whatever you do, I said, make sure you have a savings account of your own. She said, oh yes, my grandmother told me that. The grandmother also told her, he doesn't have to know you have it either. And unfortunately, we have to do that, but it is necessary. Women need resources so that when things happen, we have an out. I know men who take their wives to the store and do the shopping with her and pay. So they don't even give her the money to go shop. No, that needs to stop. That needs to stop.
Yes. I mean, he needs to control the money, and he's controlling the purse.
Yes.
And the minute you have a little bit of savings, it's like, oh, you sneak. You want to keep the money. No. And you sneak. What am I going to do with the money if I'm keeping it to do something like a holiday or buy something for the children, or what is sneaky about it? But a man kind of feels a little bit destabilized if he feels the woman has money.
Yes, because he feels he's no longer in control. She can leave. I can no longer make her stay. I no longer have the power to make her do what I want to do. And so those
have to be changed.
They have to be changed. This notion of power, men's power, has to be changed. And one of the ways to change is, yes, women have to acquire power of our own. We have to balance that. Yes. Yeah. And actually, it boils down to that, Candy. I think, no matter how you put it, all the things boil down to empowerment of women. Indeed. Financial, emotional, physical.
Yeah.
And I tell women that go play sports and keep your body fit and strong as
much as you can. Not for the man.
For yourself. Absolutely. Yeah. Keep yourself healthy. Yeah. Yes. Yeah.
Wow. We've come to the end. It's like we just started speaking 5 minutes ago.
Yes.
We've gone over 45. We've been speaking for.
Oh my goodness. That's fine. That's okay with you. Yes. I enjoyed it.
We must do this again. We must do this again because
anytime.
I've learned a lot from this discussion. One, I think we must, when they say pray without ceasing, it's like educate without ceasing. We need to educate the girl child.
Mm-hmm.
We also need to empower the girl child. And we need to let the girl know that we shouldn't even mention that it's a man's world. It's a man and woman's world. We're all in it together. And we are all going to make it together.
Yes.
And women need to know, though, that when you're choosing a man, you have to open your eye. In Nigeria, they call it shine your eye. Mm-hmm. Shine your eye and marry. Don't go all hairy-fairy 1 minute and therefore you lose the plot.
Yeah.
Women need to be sure that if that is what you want, then you marry and you are happy you are creating a home. Yes. In my tribe, when they say you are marrying and making a home together, it's called umabowe, which means you are rebuilding a home.
Yes.
So that thing of you, husband, children, it's rebuilding. It's my book with. So that is the same thing. We have to go back to that time, but in a different way, because now man goes out to work, woman goes out to work.
Mhm.
People, and the other cultures, that came to teach us this marriage thing where it's a man and a woman and the children and all of that, they are now having discussions, and some men are the house husband.
Yes, yes.
And yet you can't see, if a man is a house husband, it means he's just sleeping and somebody else is looking after the children.
Children.
Or, and all of that must end. I'm afraid my time is up. Thank you so much, Shirley, for coming and helping with this difficult discussion, because you made it easier, but it's still difficult. We still haven't got, unless some laws are made, unless women should enter into politics, and
Uh-huh.
women should be strong enough to
Absolutely.
help to change the system. The
Yes.
system. This is the age of Aquarius, and the truth has to come out, and we have to help ourselves.
Mhm.
And if you have to enter into a situation to be able to make a change, then ladies, the educated ones, there you are. This is your chance. Do
Yes.
something. Thank
Yes.
you very much, Shirley. This is
Thank you.
Shirley Osborne, and she is the woman's woman.
Thank you.
And
I like that. Thank you for that.
I'm so grateful to have you on the show. Thank you very much. And my listeners, thank you. And for those who want data, it's on Google. Help yourself.
All right.
Stay, Shirley. I'm just going to come off.
Okay.
Yeah.